Chapter 6. The box didn't look like much. Just big enough to hold a few trinkets. Small enough to slip into a pocket. Big enough to hold a world of potential. I touched the latch. What would I see if I looked inside? It was supposed to be whatever I wanted most, right? What did I even want now? There was a knock on the door and I grabbed the box, sticking it in my saddlebag. "Come in," I called out. The door opened, and a familiar Pegasus walked in. Flash saluted when he saw me. "Good afternoon, Miss Shimmer. I hope you won't mind too much, but I took the liberty of telling the locals that I was your personal guard. It's stretching the truth a little, but I thought you needed a friendly face more than the embassy needed another set of hooves." I grinned and waved him in. "You must have gotten this assignment for having good instincts." "Thank you. I heard you slipped out this morning," he said. "Next time you decide to go for a walk, mind leaving a note behind." I wasn't gone that long. No, but a lot of ponies got in trouble. If Princess Shahrazad hadn't stopped him, the king would have thrown some of the guards into the dungeons for losing his precious daughter's fiancé. I winced for a multitude of reasons. "Sorry." "Hey, no need to apologize to me. You might want to say something to the king next time you see him, though." "Yeah, good idea." I nodded. "Are you going to stay in the palace?" "That's the plan. There's a guard post in this wing. I'll hang my helmet there until we figure something else out." He scratched his head. "Still, there's only one of me. You prefer me on day shift or night shift?" "Good question." I thought for a minute. "Probably the night shift. But I don't need you guarding me. I need you guarding Shahrazad. I don't trust the local guards and I promised her I'd keep her safe. If you can keep an eye on her when I can't be there, I'll be able to sleep easy." "You sure?" "I don't know anything for sure," I said. "Except that I can trust you." He rubbed his chin and smiled. "I only really have to guard her until the wedding. After that you'll be able to spend the night, won't you?" "I'd rather worry about assassins than wedding planning," I mumbled. "That's too bad. I'm pretty sure when they gave me that message about making sure you were cleaned up for a romantic candlelit dinner with your beautiful fiancé that they intend for you to think about the future." My stomach growled. Food suddenly seemed like a really good idea. I sighed and did my best to look composed. "Do I have to wear a dress?" "Okay, this isn't what I expected," I said. "Is the food not to your liking?" Princess Shahrazad asked, looking concerned. "I had the palace chefs do their best to replicate the most famous equestrian cuisine, but I don't think any of us have ever had it." Between the two of us, illuminated by a dozen candles, was a spread of hamburgers and fries. You could say they looked exactly like the burgers at Hamburger Princess, but that wasn't true. When you got a sandwich from there, it came squished and messy and made by a teenager given half the time they needed to slap together your order properly. These looked like the pictures on the menu, with thick slices of vegetables and firm buns instead of the paper-thin toppings the real place used to improve their margins. No, it all looks great," I assured her, grabbing a burger and taking a big bite. I blinked in surprise. "You even got the special sunrise sauce right. I have no idea how you did that." "We have ways of finding even the most secure information," Shahrazad said with a grin. "Even your most secret sandwich sauces are not safe. I am told, though, that it is equal parts ketchup, mustard, mayonnaise, and chopped pickles." I gasped in mock surprise. I knew it. "I ask you keep the details in strict confidence. A dozen operatives spent their lunch budgets finding out this information. I swear on my honor I won't say anything." I put my hoof over my heart. "Next you'll tell me you have Celestia's cake recipes." "There are limits to even our operational knowledge," Princess Shahrazad sighed. She grabbed a few fries and ate them. "I know it's not gourmet, but I wanted something to put you at ease. I saw you were uncomfortable with the pageantry of the celebration dinner. That means a lot to me. You are my fiancé. The least I can do is make you comfortable. She smiled and gave me her best bedroom eyes, picking up a small burger and biting into it with what was supposed to be sensual slowness. The sauce got all over her face and her expression cracked, breaking out into a laugh. I don't think this kind of food is meant to be seductive, I said. No, I suppose not, she admitted, wiping a tear from her eyes forced out by the laughter. Still, it brought a smile to your face. I blushed and tried to hide it by taking another bite of the burger. She watched me eat for a few moments before continuing. Maybe if I keep you interested you won't be so tempted to run off, Shahrazad had waited until I was trying to swallow, and the hamburger took that moment to try to find its way into my lungs instead of my stomach. I half collapsed in a coughing fit, trying not to suffocate on fast food. I would prefer if my fiancé wasn't associating with dangerous criminals, she said, leaning closer. Do you need a glass of water? The dangerous criminals were starving peasants, I said, between coughing fits. How could you let ponies go hungry right under your nose? We're doing our best, she said, quietly. Food is rationed out. There are still problems. Theft? Simple spoilage. Undocumented ponies. If they were truly desperate they should have come here. Even if they were criminals they would be fed. In the dungeons, perhaps, if they were wanted ponies. But that wasn't true when the Jinni were around, was it? She sat back, tilting her head. Ah! So what did you learn, then? I heard that they used to run around making things better for ponies. There was plenty of food back then. The whole land was green instead of a desert. No, more like the reverse, she said. If you've heard the legends about the Jinni, then you know they granted wishes indiscriminately. So? You were a fool once, Shahrazad said. Think about all the foolish decisions you made. All the stupid things you hoped and dreamed for. Huge wishes that only a fool would make without hedging themselves against disaster. Things you know now that would have been terrible, but things you wished for before you had the means to achieve them. My ears folded back. She laughed. Yes, I can see it in that cute face of yours. You had some grand wish that was your entire world, and now you're ashamed to even speak of it. I nodded mutely. Now imagine a world where some of those wishes come true. Where a pony wishes for a mountain of ice cream and the folly becomes real. What can be done with that? It's inedible after only a few hours. It melts into the ground. Crops are ruined. Vermin everywhere. All for a simple fool's wish. What if they wanted something bigger? What if they were just old enough to be angry, and wished for terrible things in that anger? I shivered. The Jinni didn't destroy the land, but if one gives a filly a box of matches to play with they are just as responsible for what happens next as the foal. So what happened to them? The same thing that happens to all dangerous animals, Shahrazad said. We hunted them into extinction. Now finish your dinner. I want to spend some time cuddling before you have to get ready for royal court. Ready for what? How do I look? I asked. Flash rubbed his chin. Is this one of those situations where I should just be reassuring and tell you something uplifting? I groaned. That bad? No, no. He backpedaled magnificently, like a foal caught with his hoof in the cookie jar. You look great. Very. He searched for words and motioned to my outfit. The same cloak I'd been wearing. Black. He finished. Don't you have something else to wear? Oh yes, let me just check around. Maybe I have a secret compartment in my flank where I keep a seamstress. I huffed. I didn't come here for a fashion show, Flash. Okay, I can see you're in a great mood despite having a nice romantic dinner, he said. Honestly, I'm not sure how to diffuse this situation, so I'm gonna throw in the towel and ask you what I need to say to calm you down. Tell me I won't screw up having to attend court in a foreign nation and cause an international incident and start a war and make Celestia ashamed she forgave me for all the dumb things I did because I haven't learned anything and she was right all along that I'd never be a princess because I mess up everything I do. Flash sucked a breath between clenched teeth. You know I followed you like halfway through that until it turned into weird self-loathing. Thanks for the moral support, I grumbled. You're not going to have to make decisions or anything. It's probably just a formality since you are, technically. He trailed off. They aren't going to make you make decisions, right? Because if you're Princess Shahrazad's fiancé, you might have to do that at some point. I know. And this might be some kind of stupid moral test. Celestia did this kind of thing all the time. I started pacing. She'd drag me into something with no warning just to watch me squirm and then she'd judge every little thing I did. Aha! And you don't think this might just be a formality? I ignored his obviously stupid suggestion. There could even be some kind of trap, I said, thinking out loud. There were always unwinnable traps back home. Mom would set me up to fail and then I'd feel like an idiot and she'd use it to teach me a lesson, but there was no way to win. I'm just lucky I turned out okay. You should see Twilight sparkle. She's a total neurotic mess when she gets stressed out. Right. Did you call Princess Celestia Mom? My train of thought derailed, killing thousands of innocent bystanders. What? No. You totally did. He grinned. Didn't they teach guards to remain stoic? You misheard me. My cheeks were burning red from his mistake. I don't think. I threw a silent spell at him, enclosing his head in a soundproof bubble. This really isn't a good time to tease me, Flash. I'm trying not to have a panic attack about this whole thing. What if there's some special protocol that I completely mess up? What if what? I can't hear you. It's soundproof. Something about your neck? You're hungry. Thirsty? Why are you flapping your mouth? I dispelled the bubble, and he gasped for breath. I was trying to tell you that I couldn't get any air, he said, between deep, sucking breaths. Did you ever think there might be a reason some ponies are afraid of you? I scowled at him. I know I wasn't exactly nice to be around when I was a filly, but I've been working at it. You've still got a way to go, he said. I wasn't sure what he had against me. I dispelled it as soon as I realized he was in trouble, hadn't I? Let's just get to the throne room, I mumbled. The one thing I can control is getting there on time. Please tell me we aren't just going to sit here and smile and wave, I whispered. Shahrazad giggled and wiggled her hips, bumping her flank into mine. We were sitting to the side of the throne, close enough that we could have a private word with her father that the supplicants wouldn't be able to hear. We are here to learn, she said. And I suppose we could advise my father if he wanted a second opinion, though he rarely bothers. I just didn't expect it to be so much like home, I said. The throne, the queue of commoners and nobility forced into equality by the need to wait their turn. The feeling that this was the final method of appeals and, at the same time, that the pony they bent need to would listen to any claim no matter how large or small. I am told that we have been holding court like this for longer than Equestria has existed, Shahrazad said. It is likely that Princess Celestia took inspiration from us. 1,000 years ago there would have been nearly 100 members of the royal family attending, the king added. It's hard to believe there are so few of us left. What happened? I asked. Time, he said, with a small shrug. Accidents here and there. Marrying into other families. To be truthful, it's likely a majority of my subjects have a royal pedigree if one traced their family tree back far enough, but only myself, my brother, and my daughter remain in the direct line of succession. It would have been one fewer if not for you, Shahrazad said. Now, haven't we kept them waiting long enough, father? The king nodded, and motioned for a pony to approach the throne. The first pony in line had to be helped by a guard. One of his legs was twisted and bent, like it had broken and never quite set correctly. I knew exactly what that was like. He knelt inside a small circle carved into the ground, and I saw it glow, just for a moment, so faintly I almost thought I'd imagine it. "What was that?" I mumbled. "Oh subject mine, what do you desire that this king can grant you?" The king said, with the intonation of some pony who was acting in a play and reciting memorized lines. The guard whispered in the crippled pony's ear. I raised an eyebrow. Was this all some kind of act being put on for my benefit? A lot of things in the government were ceremonial, sure, but there was a big difference between tradition and, I don't even know what to call it. Religion? "My liege, I beg of thee." The crippled pony started. The guard whispered more, obviously feeding him lines. "I beg that thou heal my leg so I can better serve you." He glanced at the guard, clearly making sure he'd said his part correctly. "It is within my power," the king said. "I grant you this boon, openly and with no hidden cost or qualification." He held up his scepter and brought the tip down to touch the ground. I saw a spark, like static between your hoof and a doorknob on a dry winter day. The spark whipped across the distance between the two and into the kneeling pony. And then something happened that I'd never seen before. His leg twisted, bones popping into shape like they were made of rubber. Wasted muscle and gnarled tendon stretched and reformed, and a heartbeat later it was all still again, and the pony's crippled leg was whole. That's impossible. Magic healing can't even do that. I looked at Shahrazad for an explanation and all I got was a smug look. "Maybe in Equestria," the princess said. "Perhaps you still have a few things to learn." "It's not about learning," I hissed. "I know the limits to magical healing, and that just can't be done. Even the best potions couldn't do that. You can make a pony heal as well as a foal and speed it up a dozen times, but that was more like rebuilding his leg from the inside out." "It's pretty great, right?" Shahrazad sighed. "That's the power of the king." "What is that supposed to mean?" "I thought you were Princess Celestia's student." She had an expression like a cat playing with its prey. "Can't you figure it out for yourself?" "Fine. I will." I huffed and watched carefully, half listening as the next pony approached King Zephyranthes and made their carefully worded request. Most unicorns couldn't figure out magic just by watching it being cast. It was a skill, like having perfect pitch and being able to play music after hearing some pony else perform a piece. Watching the magic, feeling the tingle in my horn now that I was ready for it, I put the pieces together. "The reason everything is so formal is because it really is like a play," I said. "It's a symbolic language. The actions and request and even the placement of the throne and the supplicant are all part of it, like runes in the matrix of a massive spell." Shahrazad didn't say if I was right or wrong, but her smile changed just a little, her eyes twinkling with real mirth. I could tell I was on the right track. A symbolic language like this would only be used in magic if you wanted to create a completely unambiguous statement that couldn't be misinterpreted or twisted, I continued, thinking out loud. Which means that all of this is just to fill in the last part of a ritual spell prepared meticulously in advance. When you granted that request, you were literally filling in the blanks of a wish, using language that means it'll do exactly what you intend for it to do. Am I right? King Zephyranthes held up a hoof, and the next supplicant was stopped before they were in the ring carved into the floor that formed their active part in the ritual. "That is correct," the king said. "You catch on quite quickly, Miss Shimmer. Princess Celestia has high standards for her students indeed." "I'm guessing that there are a bunch of safety nets built in," I said. "Where do the wishes even come from?" He nodded. "Forgive me if I do not tell you all of our secrets, but suffice it to say that only the royal bloodline could make it work. Even if you marry my daughter, you will not be able to sit in my throne and wield the power of kings." "That's a pretty good way to keep unhappy generals and outsiders from taking over," I muttered, thinking. There were plenty of ways around it. Would it make a difference if he was doing it of his own free will? Domination spells, threats, a gallon or two of cheap wine, what threats was it really proof against? If he was smart he wouldn't tell me, and if I was smart I wasn't going to ask. It's how we provide for the ponies under our care, Princess Shahrazad explained. I believe you ponies call it noblesse oblige. A symbolic language like that has to be pretty limited, though, I said. The only way to avoid misinterpretation would be having the options set firmly and precisely. Like ordering a meal from Hey Burger Princess. If you say you want a number 3, it's totally unambiguous that you want a Big Sun burger, Hayfreeze, and a drink. But you can't tell the pony behind the counter you want extra pineapple or no honey mustard just by ordering off the menu. You'd have to go outside the symbolic language of ordering a number 3. There are things even the power of kings cannot do, Zephyranthes agreed. Not all of the limitations are unintentional. There are things that no pony should have the power to do. He motioned for the next pony to finally come forward. She looked half annoyed at having to wait for me to give a lecture about how things worked and half terrified at the whole situation. I knew that particular combination of emotions pretty well, stuck waiting for something terrible to happen, having to reschedule your panic attack because someone else cut in line to have theirs first. O subject mine, what do you desire that this king can grant you? Zephyranthes said, once they were in place. The guard started whispering to the pony, a mare only a little older than I was. She looked like she'd been crying. My liege, the guard tried to whisper to her, and the mare ignored him. I told your servants that I was here to beg you for food, but it was a lie. I knew they would turn me away if I told them what I really wanted. My ears perked up. Now this was getting interesting. My son is dead, she whispered. You have the power to bring him back. I know you do. Please, I'll give you anything, do anything, if you just give my boy back to me. The king sighed, rubbing his eyes. My servants would have turned you away for your own good. The dead cannot come back. He motioned to the guards. I will not grant this request. I am sorry for your loss. You're really not going to help her? I asked. There are things that should not be done, King Zephyranthes muttered. He sounded annoyed. I am sorry. I had hoped to show you this as a thing of wonder, but it has soured. An idea popped into my head. A terrible idea. She doesn't need to be dragged out of here by guards, I said. She's a grieving mother. I'll walk her out and try to calm her down. There's no need for that, Princess Shahrazad said. She tried to pull me closer, and I stood up to avoid her grip. Don't worry, this'll just take a minute. I slipped away before either of them could tell me it wasn't allowed. The best thing about ceremonies is that no pony is really prepared when some pony doesn't follow the rules. I just bumped the royal guard out of the way and led the mare outside. By the time we got to the door she was crying again. I knew he'd say no, but I had to try, she whispered. I understand why you did it. I grabbed her hoof. Sometimes you have to go outside the rules to make things okay. She looked at her hoof. She could feel what I put there, passing something to her under the guise of making a supportive gesture. I loosened my grip a little so she could see the edge of the silver box. Don't open it until you get home, I whispered. What is it? She looked at me with growing confusion. Just trust me, okay? It's something that'll help. Don't tell any pony about it. I don't understand. You will, I assured her, ushering her away. I gave her what I thought was a brave smile. For some reason she shivered and ran away down the stairs. Maybe I wasn't as good with ponies as I thought.